If you were born in the 1990s, I need to ask you something. Do you remember that world that no longer exists? Those days you played outside until the streetlights came on, and those nights you waited hours just to download your first song. And do you remember Ode to My Family? You lived both of those worlds, and that makes you special. But it also makes you tired. Today we're going to talk about this together. If you ever plugged in an Atari cartridge, let's go back to that world. You're not quite a millennial, and you're definitely not Gen Z. You grew up right in the middle of two incompatible worlds, Cartoon Network and YouTube, Blockbuster and Netflix, playing hide and seek outside and playing online. And here's the secret nobody ever told you. That split childhood created two different people inside you. One who misses simplicity and one who has mastered complexity. Researchers call this the 90s kid syndrome. Now picture what I'm about to describe. A day in the 90s. You're 8 years old. Saturday morning, you wake up early, but not with an alarm. For cartoons. Scooby-Doo, Rugrats, DuckTales, a bowl of deliciously sugary cereal sitting cross-legged on the floor, eyes locked on the TV. No tablets, no streaming platforms, no watch later option. If you missed it, it was gone. And that's exactly why everything mattered more. After cartoons, you head outside. Not because your parents told you to, because that's what kids did. You played in the street until dark. You climbed trees. You rode your bike without a helmet, without supervision. Scraped knees weren't a disaster. They were proof that you actually lived that day. You know what research says? Kids back then spent an average of 3 to 4 hours outside every single day. Today, it's less than 30 minutes. Think about that. Just 30 minutes. You are the last generation to experience an unstructured, free, real childhood. But you didn't just grow up analog, you lived through that transition, and you saw it happen with your own eyes. You remember VHS tapes, rewinding them, returning them to Blockbuster. But you also remember the moment DVDs felt like pure magic. You used dial-up internet, where a single page took 5 minutes to load, but by high school, broadband was there. You saw a typewriter in elementary school. You opened a Word document in middle school. You speak 2 languages in a way no other generation ever will, born analog, fluent in digital. And social media, you remember life before it existed. You had real privacy. When you did something embarrassing, only the people there knew about it. No phones recording, no viral videos, no permanent record of your worst moments. You discovered who you were in your own private space, without an audience. That is a luxury that will never exist again. But then, MySpace came. You were young back then. Facebook arrived during high school. Instagram as you stepped into adulthood. And suddenly, you started performing your life. You began waiting for likes. You started searching for approval. That was the moment your psychology split right down the middle. And here's what researchers discovered. 90s kids experience unusually intense nostalgia. They call it 90s kids syndrome. And it's not just sentimentality, it's neurological. You witnessed the death of one world and the birth of another. And when you look back, you're not just remembering your childhood, you're remembering an entire way of life that disappeared. Your brain erases the ordinary parts. It preserves the emotional highs. The 90s weren't perfect, you just remember them that way. Because what you're actually missing isn't those years, it's a feeling. Growing up without constant comparison, living without performing, breathing without documenting. Now let me tell you the hard part. A study that examined over 27,000 adults discovered this secret. 90s kids have worse mental health than any previous generation. Depression, anxiety, mental disorders, all higher, and they get progressively worse with age. You're not depressed because you're weak. You're exhausted because you're living in two incompatible realities at the same time. But here's what you also need to know. 90s kids have something no other generation has: perspective. You know better than anyone what life felt like without constant connectivity. That's why you can put your phone down at dinner. That's why you can actually rest. You built your identity before audiences existed. That's why you value authenticity over performance. You learned to wait for a song to download, for photos to be developed, for your show to start at its scheduled time. You know that delayed gratification isn't just acceptable, it's normal. And today, you're probably somewhere in your mid-20s or your 30s. You bring two things to the world at once: traditional values and technological fluency. You are the bridge between generations, between your boomer parents and your Gen Z or Gen Alpha kids. You are the mediator, the explainer, the one who remembers both before and after. The world changed while you were growing up, and instead of breaking you, it made you adaptable, resilient, and aware. You carry both worlds inside you. You don't fully belong to either one, and maybe that's not a weakness. Maybe that's wisdom. If this felt personal, if you've been carrying this nostalgia without knowing why, you are not alone. Write your birth year in the comments and let's talk about those days again. Let's see how many of us are out here quietly bridging two worlds. And don't forget to send this video to someone who was a kid in the 90s. You're not nostalgic for the 90s, you're nostalgic for the feeling of being fully present. And maybe, just maybe, you can find that feeling again. Don't forget to subscribe.